Wait. Is it this button? Wait. Oh, and we're off. Hard Drivin on the Mega Drive. Now, I'm not the person to be digging into the minutiae why this game really couldn't have been crowbarred onto the Mega Drive and yet somehow was managed. There's a much better video about that which you can either click at the top of the screen or it'll be in the description. The fact that it even runs is a minor miracle, utilising all sorts of fancy coding tricks. Which would be good if the game was as good as those tricks, am I right? Because it really isn't. It really isn't. Hard Drivin is pretty much the definitive game that should have stayed in the arcade and not been ported to home consoles and computers. In the arcade it was a great looking, if pretty dull racing simulator. But I mean, come on, that's a 3D polygon racing sim in 1989. It was a stunning thing to see in motion, a great achievement, but as something to play it was so-so. It took Sega another 4 years to show that 3D racing games could be brilliant to both look at and play. But we're not talking about hard driving in the arcade, we're talking about it in the home. And Rich doesn't mess about here. We're talking 50% playability and 37% lastability, with an overall of 35%. It is a pasting, and deservedly so. The arcade experience of hard driving was already stretched pretty thin when you're talking about £1 or even 50p ago. For the Mega Drive cartridge we're talking £35, which is pretty steep for a game with only 2 tracks. At least in the arcade you'd have the big cabinet, force feedback steering and all that business. On the Mega Drive you've got like a 3-button pad, which is, you know, alright, but it's not enough for a game billed as the ultimate driving simulator, you know? I mean, that just sums it up. The pad isn't enough, the console isn't enough to get the proper enjoyment out of a game like this. I mean, why port it? They even tried to port it to the Commodore 64 and the Spectrum, which is just baffling. We've already had a couple of other driving games and they've been alright, but this is easily the worst driving game so far, which is almost a crime considering how technically impressive it is. It also speaks volumes about Atari at the time, that they pour so much effort and technical wizardry into something so dull. And Rich agrees, although terminal boredom is the worst phrase he uses, which is about as far as he goes. I mean, considering the abuse Flick he got, hard driving gets off pretty lightly despite its low overall score. It's one we have to agree with though. It's a great conversion of a big impressive arcade cabinet that takes everything away that made it big and impressive, leaving, you know, very little behind.